I'm Tamara, the girl behind Starcross Knits, and this is a knitting podcast episode where I share my recent projects, so things that I'm working on right now, and then also things that I just finished recently. And I'm glad that I'm filming this right now because I think it's going to force me to confront my manic cast on energy that I've been leaning into a little too heavily this summer. But let me show you the things that I have finished, which one of them is the top that I have on right now. So this is actually a first for this channel, also a first for me. I made this top on a knitting machine. I got a Brother flatbread, that sounds way too delicious, a Brother flatbed knitting machine from a friend who's moving. I'm kind of learning how to use it for the first time. I've never done any machine knitting before, minus one horrifically mangled panel that I made on a Centro 6 months ago. The silhouette is kind of inspired by my Thine Own pattern, which came out in June, which has these picot details and these sort of wedge-shaped straps that I think are super flattering. I was talking about it with a friend of mine and she was like, can't wear those wedge-shaped straps because I have broad shoulders, but I actually have broad shoulders too. And it's so funny to me, my shoulders to me look so much broader without that sort of wedge shape than they do with it. So kind of an interesting optical illusion, and there's obviously nothing wrong with broad shoulders, but I like the way that I look in this. And I still get this big open square neckline. So anyway, just a little food for thought on fit. So this is made with a fingering weight cotton yarn. I think it's mercerized cotton, which is treated in some way. I don't know, but it was on a cone that I got from my friend with all the machine knitting stuff. So I decided my goal of how to learn how to use this machine is kind of how I like to approach learning a lot of things, which is pick something very small and attainable and only concern yourself with learning the things that you need to achieve that very small goal. This was actually advice that my dad gave me when I was first learning how to program because I didn't go to school for computer science and I was sort of switching mid-career into something else. And his advice was put yourself on a tiny little sandbox, only play with the toys in that little sandbox. Don't even look outside of it because you will get intimidated by the absolute vastness of what you don't know and haven't even begun to learn. And I find that to be very true for myself. I think that if I'm trying to learn a new skill, whether it's for a career or it's a new technique in knitting or a new skill like machine knitting, it can be really intimidating when you're oh my God, I'm not even brushing the surface of 0.0001% of all the knowledge out there. Will I ever learn anything meaningful? So I love to just narrow down on something achievable, accomplish that, feel the good feelings, get yourself into that momentum, and then start to slowly broaden your sandbox, whatever metaphor you want to use. So that's my goal with the knitting machine. The one that I got from my friend has a ribber attachment.
You can, I think, knit in the round. You can do lace work. You can do fair isle. You can do intarsia.
There's so many things, and right now my goal is focus just on the very basic skills, start making things that I like and want to wear, and then slowly introduce so that I feel motivated and positive about it, and also don't overwhelm myself and make 50 failed swatches that are complicated and frustrating and then never actually make anything. So that was my goal with this top, was I wanted to make it as basic as possible, but with just enough interest and silhouette that it felt like me and it would actually be something I wanted to wear in my wardrobe. So this is knitted flat, the front and the back. There's a tiny bit of shaping, which you have to do by hand on the machine just to come up for this armhole. And then I did a picot hem along the top and bottom. And then I also learned a little bit of short rows to get this wedge shaped. And I'm so happy with it, honestly. The only things I would change is, I think these are slightly asymmetrical. I did this one after. I think I didn't fully figure out the technique on this one yet. And then it's maybe an inch too short. When I wear it with a high-waisted skirt, I needed about an extra inch of length. But that is this one. I'm excited to learn a lot more about the machine. I think I'll probably start sharing some videos on here that are me learning how to use it. There's definitely some crossover with hand knitting. I'm not giving up on hand knitting. I need it I physically crave it. I love hand knitting, so I'll never move away from that. But it's kind of fun to like add in this extra skill set that helps you make garments that I love. So yeah, definitely subscribe if you're interested in that. I am going to make another version of this top as like a thank you for my friend. And I'm on a deadline, and I'm timing how long it's taking me because I'm just kind of curious to see like how does it actually compare against hand knitting. This top, the gauge is really dense. It's like 28 stitches in 4 inches and 50 rows. So it would take me a long time to hand knit it. That is this top. I'm really happy with it. And I've already worn it out and got really drunk and sang karaoke in it. So I feel like fortuitous start to this item in my wardrobe. You know what? I just realized looking in the viewfinder, this necklace that I got last year is like basically Pico in necklace form. So clearly cannot get enough of that Pico princess bullshit. Next finished object, this is just a little baby one, is this little lemon pouch. So I made this using the grapefruit pouch pattern that I shared in my summer knitting inspo video. It's by Unique Crafts. And I don't know, I just wanted something like refreshing, something easy, something quick, something cute, something summery. Checks off all of those boxes. And it's also a great scrap project. So I used Knit Picks Dishy Multi in Sunshine for the lemon, which is a little bit variegated, but I think it actually is quite cute on this. It goes from like pale yellow to sort of a deeper daffodil. I don't know enough yellow color names. So that was nice for this, that I just had that in my stash. That was from my giant yarn haul that I got as hand-me-downs from my friend. Watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. There is a lot of yarn and I'm like trying to find ways to use it up. So that's worsted weight. But then the leaf uses like a fingering weight yarn. And at first, because I was disappointed because I was planning on using some more Knit Picks Dishy scraps for that. But then I realized that, again, watch that yarn haul video. I have these boxes of Knit Picks palette. Oh my God, there's so many more. Okay, I thought those were all the colors, but no. So this is a whole separate range. These boxes have every single color. So I have these green colors. I modified the pattern a tiny bit because in the pattern, you're knitting the leaf in the round on DPNs, and I actually don't have DPNs. Somehow have avoided ever using them, and I hate magic loop. So that's like not a great combo. So I decided instead of knitting the leaf in the round, I would just do double knitting instead. So I decided to do 2 different colors. So there's a light green on top that matches the strap, and then on the bottom of the leaf is actually like a darker green color. And I just really enjoyed that. I learned double knitting earlier this year. I made a halo headband pattern out of it, learned how to like do increases and decreases on it. So that was just kind of a fun thing to use for this. And I liked it better than having to do the knitting in the round. And I actually think it's really cute having those 2 colors. You could also just do it 1 color. You don't have to do 2 colors. Anyway, I think this is so cute. The only downside is I wish it were a little bit bigger because, for instance, if I put my phone in, it doesn't quite fit my phone. So I wish it were like 1 inch longer and a little bit bigger, and then I could actually carry it out and put my wallet in there and like wear it out to lunch or something in the summer. So I might remake one a little bit bigger than that. So I've got 3 other works in progress to get to. So here is a really big one that I'm kind of conflicted about. If you watched my last knitting podcast episode, you saw I was like swatching to make an intarsia sweater with a tarot card of the star on it. So I actually got pretty far in this sweater, but I'm feeling a little bit worried about the fit, and I'm trying to decide if I should frog all of it or what should I do. So this is the sweater so far. So I made this chart online on Stitch Fiddle, and I'm using ladder back jacquard as the way to capture floats in the back. So it looks kind of cool actually from the back. Ladder back jacquard was one of my big goals this year of a knitting technique that I wanted to learn. And that was really cool to find a project to use it on. And it's basically, you're like knitting the long floats together in the back of the work. So you can see here, these are like knit stitches where you're knitting behind the work at the same time, so that you don't have to catch the floats as frequently. So that's pretty cool. So I'm really happy with parts of this. Like I love how the lettering came out, the star, but I'm just feeling a little bit worried about the proportions. So let me see if I can kind of stand up to show you. So this is what it is so far, and it's really big. And I knew I wanted it to be an oversized sweater, but I'm thinking this is just too long. And I wish that I had cut out one of these waves so that I could make it like that much shorter at least. Because there's still gonna be a little bit more of the card up here, and then I need to do the neckline and some bottom ribbing. So I don't know. I also decided I didn't do any armhole shaping on this one because I was kind of trying to like procrastinate on making decisions. So I wanted to just knit the panel and see if like I even liked how the color chart looked before I committed to like where the neckline should be, etc. Because normally I do it as a top-down pattern, but I was like, oh, I don't know how high up I want the card to be, etc. But now I'm feeling a little bit of remorse. So I don't know. I wish that I had done some armhole shaping so that it wasn't going to be so big on the shoulders, like a traditional drop shoulder, because this is like, it's a DK weight, so it is pretty drapey, so that's not so bad to bunch up under the arms, but like that's pretty far down on my arm. I wish I had maybe done a little bit less ease. Hoping slash thinking of making a pattern for this, but now I'm like, I don't know, does that even appeal to people? So I will say the like intent behind this is pretty special. I've been having kind of a hard year, and this card represents like new beginnings, opportunity, hope, etc. And I just really was craving something that felt like symbolic and meaningful in that way. And I actually casted it on during the summer solstice when I was spending time with a bunch of friends, and that felt really special to like, you know, at the halfway point of the year to be sort of like reflecting on, I don't know, future changes and like, what do I want in my future? So that is special about it. So that makes me kind of not want to frog it because it's like imbued with that, but you know what, it'll still be the same yarn. So maybe that's silly. And this is using Barocco Vintage DK as the background, and then Drops Cotton Merino as the navy blue. I have a ton of this Drops Cotton Merino in my stash, so that was kind of why I wanted to use that. And then I wanted something else that was also super wash and machine washable to like balance out. I didn't want one to be machine washable and the other one to not be. So yeah, that was the reasoning for this. Yeah, let me know what you think about that one, because I'm just gonna put it in timeout for a little bit. Okay, next work in progress. This is actually, you know what, I feel good about this one. This is actually something that you've seen through like 3 stages now if you've watched other parts of my videos. So originally I was going to make this a cardigan kind of top that had holes along the edges. I've got plans for that idea, but with different yarn. And I tried to partially frog it, jump scare, but like, is this supposed to look like that? That did not go well. So I frogged it all, started again. This is using Knitting for Olive pure silk, and the needle size is 2, so 2.75 millimeters. So my plan now for this one is it'll be a V-neck, and then it will button in the front. I can't decide, I might have some kind of like waist definition. I'm doing a little bit of like subtle bust darts and then back darts for shaping to the waist. There might be a little bit of lace at the waist, I haven't decided yet. And then again, use the darts to increase a little bit for not quite like a full peplum, like not a ruffle situation, but just like kind of skim your curves a little bit. And I'm thinking I want it to be short sleeves with, again, some like lace edging along the neckline and then also along the ends of the sleeves. And this is where I'm at so far. I have joined the full piece. I did have to frog a little bit. Originally, for some reason, when I calculated this, I gave it like almost no armpit ease. I don't know what I was thinking. That was not comfy. So I frogged just a little bit back to add some more armhole shaping, or like a little more armhole depth. And I'm pretty happy with it so far. So I'm gonna do some swatching to figure out what lace pattern I wanna do. And then I'm thinking that I'll do maybe like a picot, again, Picot Princess, a little picot crochet edging. And I'm thinking for the buttons that I kind of wanna just crochet little loops and have that attached to a button rather than like knit in buttonholes. I'll add a little, this is kind of an inspo, was from this top by Reformation. Got me thinking along those lines. So I'm like 50 rows away from figuring out the waist situation, but I'll probably do some swatches. Yeah, that's the deal with this one. Okay, I've got one last work in progress. I also had kind of forgotten about this one when it was so humid. I like couldn't stand to touch this, but this is going to be a cardigan version of my prep school pullover. This is made with Cascade Superwash 220, so it grows a little bit after you knit it. A little collared moment with this 2x2 rib accents, and it's pretty cropped, which is what I wanted. I wanted this to wear with like high-waisted jeans, and especially with like cute little dresses. I have a particular dress in mind, this like plaid dress that I love that I wanted to wear. I don't know, I like this 2x2 rib. It feels a little bit retro to me, and I'm thinking of some tortoiseshell buttons maybe. And the way that I made this, I really liked the idea that you can wear it open and it kind of folds open. You can wear it buttoned up like to here. And then I think I want to add a buttonhole on the collar so that you can also wear it like this if you like really want a fully cozy moment in the winter. The only things that I'm not 100% happy with is I wish I had added a little bit more armpit ease. Again, with the armpit ease, I decided to make this a little bit closer fitting than the prep school pullover, and I also added some armhole shaping. It does like reduce the amount of fabric you have here. So this also has a little bit less positive ease than the prep school pullover. So I just wanted it to be a little bit more fitted, and I feel like it gives sort of a retro vibe because it's a little like shrunken almost, but you could always size up if you wanted it to be a lot baggier. But yeah, that's the one change that I want to make, is I want to add more armhole ease, and that will allow the sleeves to be a little bit baggy. I have relatively large biceps for my like size on the size chart, so I already know that about myself, but I wish there was just a little bit more positive ease here. So for the time being, I think I'm just going to pick up more stitches for my sample because I don't want to have to like rip out literally everything up to here to fix the armhole ease. But yeah, I think I'll bring it down just a tiny bit more, and then you get like a little more looseness for the upper arms. My goal is to get the sample finished probably in August, put it into testing. I think it will be pretty quick to test, and then get it out sometime this fall. And then, oh, let me give you a little bit of pattern news. So my Tied and True tank is in testing right now. Some people have already finished, which is really exciting, and it's looking pretty good so far. And the prep school pullover is finishing up testing really soon, and I'm hoping to launch at the beginning of August, so stay tuned for that. And then my Prima pullover, my off-the-shoulder ribbed pullover that has some shaping, is in tech editing right now, so I'm really hoping to choose testers for that in August. Join my mailing list if you like really want to hear about the news for that one or any of these pattern launches. And yeah, those are my pattern news right now. Okay, lastly, some like acquisitions. So one thing that I'm loving is I got these little needle stoppers. They're so useful, especially for this silk yarn that's like sort of slippery on my metal needles. Just to make sure that it doesn't like unravel as I'm doing stuff with it. So I love these, and I was thinking about making a video on like what knitting notions I think are worth it and not, because your girl's got opinions. So let me know if you'd be interested in that. Otherwise, in terms of acquisitions, I did go to another book sale. Love the library book sales for free books. Or like super cheap. I got this book, No One Is Talking About This, by Patricia Lockwood. So I had actually tried to listen to the audiobook of this earlier, but it's written in a very poetic kind of prose, so just a little bit difficult to figure out what was going on just listening, because I'm not as good at paying attention audio-wise as I am for reading. So I thought that'd be cool to read in hard copy. And then the other thing that I read recently was Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I thought this one was interesting. It's about a convenience store worker who's in like her late 30s, never been married, only ever worked part-time. Seems kind of like the character might be autistic, and sort of like her dealing with people's perceptions of her in terms of like what are her accomplishments and how does she fit into society if she's not really focusing on her career or having a family. I liked the idea that like you can find meaning in things that other people might find not impressive, I guess. Like she finds meaning in knowing when you should put out cold drinks in the convenience store, when should you like advertise XYZ thing differently than this one. Like there can be satisfaction and purpose in just doing something well, even if that something isn't necessarily something that society values or like people think is externally impressive, which I feel like I understand. Someone who is like gotten very, very obsessed with knitting, I think there's like things that I find so much satisfaction in from it. And sometimes other people I talk to who are like, oh, you are really into that, like cannot understand that just because it's not something that they value, doesn't mean that it isn't something that I find fulfilling or meaningful. It made me think of this book by StoryCorps that I found in like a little free library a long time ago that was talking about jobs. And there were a few different ones that really stood out to me because you think about like, what is meaning? What is purpose? A lot of the jobs you would expect are like, I'm a doctor and I save lives or whatever. But the only two job stories that I remember from the whole book, one of them was someone who works at like a drawbridge or something in a small town. And they just like sit there, and if a boat comes, they have to raise the bridge. That's all they do. And they were like, I love my job because I sit and I watch the seasons change on the river. I watch animals go about their lives. I watch the weather change. I watch the clouds come in, the clouds go out. Like, just finding joy in being a human on the earth feels so rare for that being something that someone values in like a job that they're doing. And I found that so compelling. I don't know. And then the other job was this guy who had been a very high-powered lawyer or attorney in New York. And then in his retirement, he got a job slicing lox, which is like smoked salmon, at a deli. And he talked about like feeling like his entire consciousness is like in the tip of that blade as he like gets the perfect thin slice, and basically just describing like flow state and being present in what he's doing. And I don't know, that's really interesting. Like, I've been thinking a lot about jobs lately and like, how do you find purpose, especially when for so long, like what people thought was going to be the most valued and the most purposeful was creative work and like information work, office work, people creating things, whether you're like building them as an engineer or you're like an animator, whatever. And now AI is maybe going to disrupt a lot of those industries. So it's really interesting thinking about like, what do you find meaningful? What do you find that makes you actually feel present as you do it? How will that conflict with whatever the future of this like capitalist hellscape will be in terms of finding things valuable? Like, I don't know. I just think it's an interesting topic. So I liked that about this book. I liked that it made me think about, what do you find presence and accomplishment in, whether or not that's something that society values necessarily. That is my little book review of that. I'm curious if anyone has read any of these books. I would love to know what you think about it, because I actually haven't read like all the Goodreads reviews and whatnot about it yet. So I had just picked this up in like a used bookstore because honestly, I thought it was cute and it matched one of my bags, my summertime tote bag that has a blue outside and a pink inside with gingham. So sometimes it's not that deep. Anyway, thank you for joining me for this knitting podcast. I hope I have some finished objects soon. Like literally cyberbully me if I come into the next one of these and I'm like, look at the 10 things I casted on, I didn't finish anything. Just get your fingers prepped for like bullying, basically. I need that and I request it actually. So bye, I hope I see you soon.